How have you done that to me? How have you done it?
Welcome back to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. It's been a sticky week. I've had COVID. I've not felt too good. And we've not really spoken an awful lot. But you've got a bit of news that you announced on Twitter the other day.
Yeah, no, some exciting news. I've managed to get a job within Racing TV alongside yourself, Josh. Fantastic opportunity for me. It's been a fantastic journey over the last couple of years since I started up doing my own YouTube channel back, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's kind of dream job stuff, really, getting a job within horse racing. And it probably does show people as well, if they want to get started on a YouTube channel or want to start doing something, that the opportunities do end up coming your way, because I certainly came from absolutely nothing within the game, and here I am looking to get a Racing TV job in the new year. So I'm heading over to you. We're staying together. Currently in the process of trying to find a place in London, which is proven sticky. But once it does, Jesus, there's going to be some sights in that house, I suspect.
Explain the photo.
Yeah, look, the photo was a bit of fun. Like, I always try to do something that's kind of taking the piss out of myself, but also give people a bit of entertainment. The Midnight Tipper Brigade will know all of that. And look, you know, you get these people that are signing the contracts when they're signing for football clubs. I decided once I got the Racing TV contract, printed out, I had my mom well positioned to take the photo and everything. It was absolutely fantastic. She did a super job as well. I've never looked as decent as I did there. So it's all gone downhill since. But look, it got a good reaction on Twitter. People got a kick out of it. Look, luckily plenty of people were laughing with me rather than at me.
There were a few roasts. I'm going to quickly fire through a few that I liked. One was signing the loan application when another McConnell slogger gets him down.
It doesn't get harder than that. Like, people just love to hit me where it hurts most.
This is one of my favourites. SBW robbed. So good. There
were a few like that. Say, was SPW part of the package? Like a little bit of a, when you have to buy somebody on Football Manager and you exchange a player as well. With racing, somebody gets over here and SPW over there. Unfortunately not.
When you see Facile Vega, John Bond, Constitution Hill and Honeysuckle Acre on day one of the festival, it's very true. And Ollie Bell even got involved, and he said, I've got so much time for Andrew and announcing this like he signed a 5-year pro contract at West Ham.
Well, I may do in a year's time, to be honest. I'm an unfurnished footballer, but it's getting there.
Plenty of excitement to come. We look forward to hopefully upgrading the channel. We won't be stopping, but a massive congratulations to Andrew. You thoroughly deserve it. You don't need me to tell you that. But this video, we're going to be reviewing the weekend. We've also got a few questions from you over on Twitter. We'll be previewing Ascot. It might not be on, which is why we wanted to include a few other bits and bobs. And then we've got some best bets at the end. So we do hope you enjoy. But before, last week we did a ticket giveaway. You had to go over to Instagram, follow us, and send us a DM of you liking the last video. And Rob Coombe won it. So Rob Coombe, message us again on Instagram, and you can go to Cheltenham in January for Trials Day, and it's a great day as well. Really gets the blood pumping. The last opportunity to go to Cheltenham before the festival. A fantastic meeting. Let's talk about the racing that's been, and we're only going to cover one day really, and that's Cork on Sunday, because we've been plagued with non-runners and abandonments, and every big meeting was called off basically at the weekend. The first race was a 3-year-old maiden hurdle, and Blood Destiny, who'd had one start in France, but finishing a second to Bo Zenith, who's now with Gary Moore. He went out for Willie Mullins and won very well. What did you make of it? Yeah,
it was very impressive. Look, he got his own way out in front. He jumped very well up the straight at the business end of races, which as a juvenile goes is very impressive. Look, the horses he beat, he's ended up beating Sir Alan, who was a horse I lost a few quid on the flat this summer, rated around 70 odd. He should be beaten that type of horse in a juvenile hurdle, but he did impressively. Plenty more to come. If I was pressed, I'd say he's be the type of horse that might run more at Fairyhouse and Punchestown rather than being a Triumph Hurdle horse.
They have said that a Grade 1 at Leopardstown over Christmas or the Dublin Racing Festival would be next, depending on how he came out of the run. So obviously Willie must think an awful lot of him. I think he's got a bit to find personally with Lossiemouth. but certainly entitled to run in a Grade 1. And the one thing that everyone's now going is, well, how good is this Bo Zenith? I would just want to see Bo Zenith out in really good company before I believe he's a superstar. But obviously we've not seen him yet. So I maybe would ease the hype on that at the moment. Arctic Brazil won the 2-mile maiden hurdle. He cost £305,000 after winning a point-to-point. He beat Mercury, who probably was just a bit green.
Yeah, he was a bit disappointing for my money. Arctic Brazil was very good. He was keen throughout the race, so he was surprising to me, I suppose, how well he hit the line, given how keen he was. I think people were jumping up and down about this race. I wouldn't be maybe a massive fan of the form myself. Mercury would be on the blacklist for me at the moment. I thought it was a really, really average effort. He's going to have to go and prove it. He may well come on for that leaps and bounds. I'm sure he will, but people were saying a step up in trip, but yet he was still very keen. I just think he looks a little bit ungainly, a bit unbalanced, unfurnished. So Arctic Brazil, he's done it very nicely. What has he beaten? I'm not so sure whether it's as good as maybe people are putting it out to be. But he's a good horse, and I'm sure he'll be stepped up in class next time out.
I don't think you'd be in a rush to step him up in trip either. I'm not sure he's going to be beating Vassal Vega over 2 miles, but I do think he could be seriously good if he does stay further. I disagree with you. I think it will turn out to be an all-right race. I really like the winner. I thought he was super smart, and he's gone straight up into, in my estimation, especially if he goes up in trip for something like the Ballymore. I'd be worried if I had a slip with American Mike, which I do, or even Grange Clare West. I think Grange Clare West has shown more, but I do think Arctic Brazil can definitely put it up to him. Hidden Valley Lake went from a 2-mile 3 furlong maiden at Naas to a 3-mile Grade 3 at Cork. Was probably an eye-catching entry, let alone declaration, let alone runner, and he's absolutely bolted up.
Yeah, he did, and he was very impressive in doing so as well. I like the form of this race in comparison. I think there's a lot of solid sticks in behind. Cool Survivor's a decent horse. Monbeg Park, decent horse. Let's be clear about it, perhaps hasn't really built on that run behind American Mike. So I wouldn't be sure how well he's run. But at the same stage, the only thing I would say is I know he's won a 3-mile race, and he's won it by 7 or 8 lengths going away at the finish. So everyone thinks he's got abundances of stamina, which I'm sure he does to a certain extent. But I think he's got more pace than people are maybe giving him credit for. They went round at a walk. Cool Survivor was out in front. I think I could have ran beside Cool Survivor for the first mile. They were absolutely hacking along. So therefore, I wouldn't be surprised if Hidden Valley Lake actually steps back down to 2.5 miles next time out. I think he would have the pace for it. And I would maybe cool the jets in terms of backing this horse maybe for an Albert Bartlett, because the way the race panned out suited the horse with a bit of speed, a little bit of boot, and he showed that in abundance.
Do you think he could be one for something like the Nathaniel Lacey at the Dublin Racing Festival?
Yeah, I think that would be bang up his street now that you say it. 2 miles 6, as you say, a bit of nicer ground. He has that little bit of speed. He's won at Naas, he's won at Cork. 2 decent standard races. I think the horse he beat at Naas has gone out and won a maiden around Clonmel since. So his form looks good. He looks an improving horse. He's won 2 from 2 under rules. You don't know where the ceiling is, and he'd be very exciting for connections.
It looked a deep mare's novice chase that Impervious won. 2 from 2 now over fences. Beat Dino Blue. She's going in the right direction.
Very much so, yeah. I was down at Wexford when she won her beginners, beating Cade Boy. She was impressive that day, jumped well again behind Dino Blue, who's an electric jumper actually. She's actually transformed herself over fences to jump well. And I thought Impervious was cooked turning in. I backed her. I was almost throwing the slip away. I think she's relaxed an awful lot. Last year she was very keen, barely saw out 2 miles. As for the way she ran on Sunday would indicate maybe a slight step up in trip might suit this horse, which would give me a lot of confidence if you're thinking about maybe a mare's chase, that maybe 2.5 miles might be within remit. And given the fact that she's an improving novice, you don't know how good she could be, she quickly becomes a player in that mare's chase, which is probably a windy enough market as it is.
How far off do you think she is from, for instance, Allegory de Vassy, who we've not yet seen jump a fence, but seems to be at the top of the mare's chase market?
Yeah, well, see, that's it. You've got a horse that picked up a knock last year, hasn't been seen in 9 or 10 months. I know she's had a few entries recently, but you're taking an awful lot on trust that she's going to be as good as maybe that form when beating Brandy Love is going to produce. Hard to know where Impervious lies with the standard bearers of that division, which are Ellie May and Scarlet and Dove. I've put up Scarlet and Dove for the race. And she's a solid mare, but she's no world beater. You know, if something comes out of the trees, you know, she's going to be in trouble. I'd be the first to admit that. And Impervious is the type of mare that I've got very mixed feelings about, because I really like the horse, but she's no use to my Scarlet and Dove Slip, I must say, because I think she's a real danger.
Energumene won the Hillyway, and I thought what was interesting is obviously they popped him out in front, so clearly he's extremely versatile, very easy to ride, because they dropped him in the Champion Chase. They went hard out the front in the Clarence House, they've gone hard here, and he's just in a league of his own, I think, at the moment. Obviously, Edwardstone comes into the picture, and he's been very impressive in the Tingle Creek, but right now, the standard bearer is Energumene, and from what you saw, is he regressing at all? Because it didn't look like it from me.
No, not at all. Now, it was a bit of an after you, Claude moment with the horses in behind. Nobody wanted to really get close to him. I thought to the naked eye, given, now I'm basing this off extremely high standards, which he has shown before. I thought he was sloppy jumping wise. I don't know whether his mind just wasn't on the game because he was so far out in front, but he rubbed a couple, which is unlike him because he's usually so accurate to jump. But like, I just don't see how he gets beat, really, because, as you say, I think a lot of people would have had it in their head before the Champion Chase last year that he's a bit of a point-and-shoot merchant, has to be out in front, has to be ridden that way, a bit like Unto. And then he kind of defied all those naysayers, myself included, at Cheltenham. So, you know, Edwardstone does set the mark over in England based off the Tingle Creek. Would be sceptical of that form. I just think Energumene's the best of the lot of them. Now, I'm not telling you anything he doesn't need to know, like he's odds on for the race, but he's a very, very good horse. And I've done my time trying to take him on. I'm not doing it more.
We do have a few questions, which you thankfully submitted over on Twitter. Thank you very much. Marcus Shales asks, I'd love to hear your thoughts on two horses. Hollow Games, Gordon Elliott seems certain he's a two-miler. Could he be a Grand Daniel horse? And what is the future for Three Stripe Life? So where do you think, first of all, Three Stripe Life would be going next?
It's hard to know. Would he take in maybe the Limerick race at Christmas time? I don't think they'll step up to 3 miles immediately with him. I know Mighty Potter was very impressive in the Drinmore, but he's got a bit of pace, Three Stripe Life. So you'd maybe see that race. If not that, maybe on to the what was the Flowgas at the Dublin Racing Festival over 2.5. You could have a situation where him and Mighty Potter again are in the same race when it comes to that. So I think he'll be kept to interim trips for now, but you know, I suppose the possibility is there that I suppose at some stage this season they may try 3 miles. Hollow Games was very impressive in his beginner's chase, 2 mile one around Navan, jumped for fun. Gordon seems to have come out thinking he's had this epiphany that he's a 2 miler. I don't think he'd be a Grand Annual horse. I think already by winning a beginner's as well as he did, you're ruling yourself near on out of a Grand Annual. But at the same stage, geez, I'd be very surprised if this horse was to go close in an Arkle. I don't see the speed myself. And, you know, 2-1 at Navan on soft ground is a staying 2 mile one. I'd be very surprised if he was up to it at grade 1 level over 2 miles.
Will Cressy asks, which of Willie's novice chasers challenges John Bond the most in the Arkle?
Yeah, so hard to know. Like, you're just seeing the entries at the moment. You're basing it off. I suppose in terms of like what we've physically seen, you know, I would be the most excited perhaps by Dysart Dynamo just because I think he could be a loose cannon. But at the same stage, the best form we've seen out of all of them is Appreciated. But is he going to step up in trip? Not so sure. He's been entered in 2 mile beginners, but I'd have it in the back of my head that he'll need further. So maybe one of those two, but it's very hard to know at this stage. Until we see them over fences, who jumps the best? Like, whoever jumps the best will be the 2 miler of the lot of them, because that's the way Willie often kind of puts in his pecking order.
Yeah, it's tricky with the novices, from novice hurdlers from last year. I'm absolutely convinced that Gerhard's the best of them over 2 and 2.5. I think he'd have beaten El Fabiolo. I think he'd have beaten Dysart Dynamo in the Supreme if he'd gone there. But I can see him being stepped up in trip. I hope he stays at 2. I think he's got plenty of pace. I think he'd be the biggest danger. Whether he's better than Appreciate, it's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously Appreciate, it's an older horse. He had the layoff. He showed a decent level of form at Cheltenham, but he didn't get anywhere near Honeysuckle. It's really tricky. I would just about favour Sir Gerhard, I think, but he might not go down that route, so it's a very tricky question to answer. Racing Gav then asked, if you've owned/trained Honeysuckle, would you go to the mares or the Champion Hurdle? Obviously, this comes along because Henry de Bromhead came out on Racing TV in the week and said that the Mares' Hurdle is a genuine target. I think they're thinking probably if the Cheltenham Festival was ran in a month, it'd probably be the Mares' Hurdle from what I got from that conversation. I think it would be a massive, massive shame if they were to do that. Obviously, she owes racing nothing, and they're going to find the race that they think she can win. But she's a dual Champion Hurdle winner. She's going to stay in training. It would most likely be her second last run before probably a trip to Punchestown. Why not just run in the Champion? Because anything can happen. Not only could possibly beat Constitution Hill, it looks awfully unlikely, but she could. Imagine if something went wrong with Constitution Hill, but he didn't turn up, and they've denied a third Champion Hurdle. I think it'd be a massive, massive shame. So I think they shouldn't go to the Mares' Hurdle. I think they should go here and take on Constitution Hill, and we could get that clash.
Yeah, well, that's the hope. I think an awful lot will depend how she runs in the Irish Champion Hurdle. Because if she gets turned over by Stateman, she's no chance in the Champion Hurdle, unfortunately. I don't know, but she could go to Leopardstown and beat Stateman, and if she beats Stateman, she's back in the picture. So I'd be like you. I've got a bit of a gripe, I must say, with horses that have won the Champion Hurdle. Like, I know they're mares and all that, and therefore they do qualify for this Mares' Hurdle. I would make it that they can't run in the Mares' Hurdle if you've won a Champion Hurdle. I don't think there's any... it's taking away from genuine mares that are running in the mares division, the likes of Honeysuckle and Epatante running in that race, just because they're running scared of the Champion Hurdle. But they've already won the race. So therefore, they won't even have to carry a penalty, I don't think, in the Mares' Hurdle if they're in it. Which makes no sense to me, personally speaking. Gives no chance to the smaller mares, the Heaven Help Us, the Queensbrook, the Mrs. Milners of the world. They've no chance in those types of races then. Look, I'd be down the Champion Hurdle train myself, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if she turned up in the mares.
Also, slightly off topic, everyone seems to love Epatante for the Mares' Hurdle. I personally don't see it at the prices in the slightest. I really don't see it. Ascot then, this weekend, looks extremely unlikely to go ahead. Hopefully it does. Fingers crossed. We will preview the action as if it was going to go ahead. Saturday, we've got the 3-mile long walk hurdle, and we see the rematch between Paisley Park and Champ. Obviously, they had their ding-dong battle at Newbury in the long-distance hurdle. We've got Miranda, who's got the £7 mare's allowance. Goshen's in there. Botox has. Champ never seemed as good on his second run. It's quite a tight turnaround. Who are we backing in this?
Well, probably nobody, to be honest, after what you've said there and my own views on it. Look, I know it's good for the game. It's great to see long-serving horses in the game. I must confess, I don't quite get behind all the gushing about this Champ Paisley Park rivalry. Like, the Newbury race was good. It was a bit of a head bobber and stuff like that. But, these horses have kind of been around the block and back. And the fact that they're still right at the top of the staying division in England, you can look at it in two ways. One, it's great because there's great longevity between the two horses and more credit to their connections. But then again, where are the challengers? Miranda is third favourite in this race. I don't know how she's third favourite in the race. Goshen's in there, doesn't stay 3 miles, I don't think. Botox maybe has a chance of running above himself. He's an impressive and improving handicapper. Can never get him right myself, though. Queensbrook is in there. She's as fat as anything. She puts on weight every day of the week, seemingly. Has to trim it off. She's a good mare, but I think this is, again, a step too far. So I think it's going to be between the top two. I wouldn't be surprised if the form was upheld. I wouldn't be surprised if the form was reversed. Everyone will be gushing on Twitter, and I'll be just thinking that it was a relatively average 3-mile Grade 1.
The 2.5 mile and 3 mile novice chasers, as well as the 3 mile open hurdlers, have just been so disappointing this year, mainly because Time Hill and McFabulous, who probably would contend with Champ and Paisley Park in the hurdle races, have gone chasing. And then you've got horses like Boot Hill and Walking on Air, who were novices last year over hurdles, who probably should have gone novice chasing. I just think we lack horses in that department over here, and we're not going to be winning a Stayers hurdle with Champ and Paisley Park, unfortunately. The next race is the 3 mile Howden Silver Cup Handicap Chase. Now, I wanted to get one in early because I know you love this horse, and you're going to put him up as well.
I know you. How have you done that to me? How have you done it?
It's Bob Hope and No Hope at 8-1. I knew you'd put him up because I think he's going to go and win. Off 139, he needed his first run. It was over course and distance. He's going to come on for it, and I think he's going to take a good bit of beating. 8-1 I thought was a very reasonable price.
taking the words out of my mouth. This is like me putting up lacta constants for a race before you or something. You've just
at least you'd be putting up a winner, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, it would be unlike me anyway. So, no, I think Bob Hope or No Hope's got a fantastic chance in this race. 8-1. He's been dropped £1 for his third on reappearance, which I can't see how that's happened. He ran a perfectly sound race. Kim Bailey's horses are in good form. He's a good jumper, likes a right-handed track, likes this trip. 8-1, so I think a snip.
Completely agree. I really fancy him at 8-1. The following race is the 2 mile Betfair Exchange Trophy. Very competitive 2 mile handicap hurdle, as it always is. Although this year, runners down, which is kind of a constant theme this season. I like one in here as well. I like Hackett Places for Paul Nicholls. 8-1, like Bob Hope or No Hope. He ran into Highway 102 at Ascot about a month ago, who nicked a couple of lengths turning for home and just was never for catching. I think Hackett Places ran a really, really good race there, and he'll be better off at the weights. I think he'll come on for the run. I think Paul Nicholls has races like this in mind a long, long way out, and I'm not sure. I think it was a 10-15 grand handicap hurdle, or maybe a 20 grand handicap hurdle the last day compared to this, which is worth 88 to the winner. I think he's had this completely in mind. 8-1, Paul Nicholls target trainer on a Saturday. If the race goes ahead, Hackett Places at 8-1. And it would be wrong of me not to do a double. A Bob Hope or No Hope 8-1 and Hackett Places 8-1 double. That might pay 64-1.
Good maths, you're a mathematician and a backer of winners. Quite like that case you've just made. It wasn't a race that appealed to me in a massive sense. I wouldn't be quite as keen on one. I did quite like one that certainly I think will be ran to run well, and it's Galore d'Essence for Nigel Hawke and Tom Buckley. I know you don't necessarily associate Nigel Hawke with winning these types of races, but I think the way this horse runs will suit this race. He's a hold-up horse. He weaves through runners, and they're likely to go off a mad clip here. Not So Sleepy's still in there. There's Highway 102's in there. There's an awful lot of pace on. I'm hoping they somewhat bite each other's throats up front, and this horse will weave his way through. He was third in the Dovecote last year behind Orc and Risk. He's shown a good level of form. He won by a country furlong at Doncaster the last day under Tom Buckley. I think he's still relatively well handicapped. He's a double figure price, 10-12-1. I'd fancy him at an each way price to maybe get into the first 3 or 4, maybe even threaten the winner.
There we go. So our best bets for the weekend. I'll go first. Mine would be Bob Hope or No Hope at 8-1, Monmorel if he's odds against, and Hackett Places at 8-1. I'd back both Bob Hope or No Hope and Hackett Places each way. Yeah,
2 for me, Bob Hope or No Hope as well. So the horses unfortunately has got no chance because the 2 of us have put it up at 8-1, and 1 at Navan on Sunday. Again, very hard to know whether Navan on Sunday is going to go ahead or not. But the 3 o'clock race, the horse called Sweet Will won the first race of the November meeting for Gavin Cromwell and Kieran Buckley. He's back over fences. He's off a mark of 104 over fences. I think that's just absolute snip stuff, really. And he'll be looking to put a 3rd win in a row on the board. I think Gavin Cromwell said immediately after Cheltenham that he'd be going back over fences to exploit a lower mark. This looks the race. I suspect he'll be around a 5-2, 3-1 poke. I'll be back.
We do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we will see you soon. One thing as well that's completely off topic, everyone seems to love Epatante for the Mare's Hurdle. I couldn't think of anything worse, personally. Well, that's probably... I need to do that again.